Welcome to Mac and Bleu, the cutting-edge podcast for the nation's builders, merging the realms of construction with exciting advancements in technology. Join us on a thrilling journey where we delve into the dynamic world of blockchain, AI, the metaverse, virtual and augmented reality, and their transformative impact on the industry. Our engaging discussions span a wide spectrum, covering not only construction, economic development, supply chain, and market segments, but also exploring the vibrant tapestry of diversity within the construction landscape. We shed light on the intersection of local politics and its profound influence on the construction sector, while championing the remarkable contributions of women and minorities in construction. For all things Mac and Bleu, head to www.macandbleu.com, and don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. I'm your host, JJ Levinsky. Now let's get into it. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Mac and Bleu. I'm your host, JJ Levinsky, CEO and co-founder of Blue Wave. Today I have not one but two esteemed guests. One's a repeat offender, so for those of you that are watching from the FBI, George is still on. He walked in with an ankle bracelet, so I think he's okay. But I have George Dorsey back from Payroll Experts, and lucky enough to have Casey Strunk, who is the president of the Strunk Group, which is sounds like a think tank, but he kind of is. He represents the insurance world, and no, we're not going to talk about insurance today, but before we got on, I was joking with Casey. I swear to God, we've met in a previous life, but we'll get into some fun things and go into everything that's kind of outside and inside the construction, or the insurance world as it relates to what we do in building the future. So welcome back, George, and welcome, Casey.
Thanks for having us.
George, if you can, this is more about Casey, but if you can, for the audience that saw you before, just a brief background of who you are and what you do.
Yep. So I am been in the payroll world 15 years now. I handle everything.
He's already covering something.
I know. No, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that. No, but I've been in the payroll world for 15 years now. Love it. I specialize in construction companies and helping. Now I've kind of rolled into construction and hospitality. So I handle everything from payroll, HR to pre-hire to retire for your employees to help streamline, put in technology, put things in place just to help.
And Casey, how about you?
Yeah. President of the Strunk Insurance Group. We are an independent benefits agency in our 41st year here in Arizona. Greg Strunk, my father, started the agency, and I didn't have a great plan after graduating school. And so I came back here in August of 2004, and this is my 19th year in the employee benefits space.
Did you kick him to the curb yet?
About 5 years ago, we worked out a deal for me to buy the agency, and now he just comes in to watch Fox News and write in his day planner. So
I love it. I would love to see that operating agreement.
Yeah.
Dad, here you go. Hey, a little bit of background about you though. So it looks like Casey got through school doing a side hustle with all the professional golfers out there in the world. So did you actually play golf in the Big Ten?
I did. I was fortunate enough to go back to Northwestern. I played all 4 years on that golf team on scholarship by the end. As kind of a preferred walk-on position, but had some really amazing teammates there, including Luke Donald, who just captained the European Ryder Cup team. So it was a fun experience.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, for an Arizona guy to go back to Chicago and experience those courses and those seasons, it was good.
And you went to a shitty school, so, you know, it's nothing like having to – no, I say that. I was a Wisconsin guy. You got to rub it in a little bit. But, you know, you guys that's a tremendous school to come out of.
Yeah, I probably could have used the degree for better things than a family business, but it means something.
It's all good. Next, talk a little bit about – so go back in kind of when you took over for your father. Help the audience relate to when you saw the vision or what you wanted to do with the agency post-father, kind of second generation type thing. What were the things that you saw that you wanted to change or be transformative in the space? So that kind of helps us dive down into why you're on the podcast today.
Yeah. And utmost respect for my father. I mean, I don't know that I could have done what he did in starting the business. I was in the fortunate position to take over an established business. And so, you know, I made some changes, but I've got a lot of love for the opportunity that he gave me. You know, really
let's time out. What book of business did he in essence build?
From a revenue perspective or
No,
size? Or?
just kind of the verticals. In other words, who did you represent in the Valley? Was it across all commercial lines? Give the audience a perspective of what your dad had built.
Yeah, I mean, it was an agency that was started from scratch in 1982. Greg Strunk was from Peoria, Illinois, played professional football, moved out here and got to know a lot of influential people pretty quickly and just started writing business the way that we all did, right? When we get into the insurance space, where who do I know? What businesses are out there? Who's a decision maker? And so it was a lot of small to medium-sized businesses ranging from 20 employees all the way up to a couple hundred employees. But in a lot of ways, it was a lifestyle business, always ran pretty lean. I would say that we experienced our share of turnover from the time that I witnessed, and never really was of the generation where he could leverage technology to better serve our clients. And so for me, the roadmap was pretty simple. I mean, we started looking inside of our walls first. It was, how do we want to treat our people? Okay. They are our most valuable asset. And so how do we get them to a place where they feel comfortable, where they feel safe, where they're having fun? And if we can do those things, servicing our clients will largely take care of itself. And so it was a people-centric approach. And then really just making a commitment to the market that there was not going to be a service or a tool that any agency across the country offered that we didn't. It was more a question of, what type of consultant do they want to do business with? And we just continue to move upstream and try to be as relevant as we can in the Southwest.
So we kind of did a mini circle there. So now we honored your father, and then you take over. What were those things that I think you had a great ethos there, if you want to call it that. But now just go back 10 years, in the last 10 years, what have you done, or what have you seen as far as being transformative in your space as it relates to, like, if I'm your client?
Yep, for sure. So, I mean, let's say 10 years ago, which is about the time of it, we realized that the worlds of health insurance or employee benefits are really intertwined with technology, with payroll, with HR, with retirement plans. And so we set out on a path to be able to compete with all of the major service providers out there that were doing all those things. So we brought in an in-house HR consultant to help a lot of the small to medium-sized businesses that we work with, where we know somebody's wearing that HR hat, but they're probably wearing a couple other hats as well. And they might not be that well versed in employment law, and they might not be able to update handbooks, job descriptions, trainings, things of that nature. And so Strunk HR was a service that we put out there on a consultative basis to help employers with their human capital.
So did you monetize that hourly, retainer-wise? Did you fold it into the brokerage fees, or like how were you able to make it fair for the client but yet still make money?
Yeah. So the way that we work with clients in that space is it is a monthly consulting fee.
Okay, it is a fee. Yeah.
Yep, to have access to us. And then for some of our larger clients, I mean, we're there as a sounding board all the time, so they don't have to call an attorney. But and then
keep going.
The other thing that we did was we started our own retirement plan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we started a multiple employer plan, 401k, today in excess of $60 million in assets. And this was largely a service to our clients. We'd get asked all the time, like, where can I put my 401k? Do you guys handle that? And the answer was usually no. But we are the plan sponsor, the trustee of this multiple employer plan. It's an open architecture. They can use any funds that they want, but that employer with a couple $1 million of assets is now getting access to Fortune 500 pricing that we've pre-negotiated with record keepers, TPAs, fund advisors, and we're taking on the majority of the fiduciary responsibilities by acting as the plan sponsor.
Makes sense.
And then the other piece of it was we started to form strong payroll relationships out there. We often build and manage our own benefits administration systems where employees are making their benefit elections, but we need that data to go somewhere, right? We need those contributions to flow somewhere. When somebody's onboarded in payroll, we needed to come into our system. And so, working with George and the team at Payroll Experts, deciding who's going to handle each piece of the compliance around ACA, COBRA, Section 125, things of that nature has been great for our clients.
What, if you don't mind, let's go down this rabbit hole for a second. Let's think of without mentioning names because we want to be nice and fair to your clients. Think of one of your strongest clients that you have the total package or envelope. Can you walk the audience through maybe how you started with them and then you either bolted on all those things, or like how's George involved, and then how did you unveil each one of these, call it doors, in the magic living room that is Strunk?
Yep. So I mean, I can think of two specific clients without giving names, one of which George walked us into, and then another which we walked George into recently. And
which part of that marriage was better?
No comment?
Yeah, and George, maybe you talk about sort of the payroll problems that were happening in our joint large client where we came in and then handled benefits after the fact.
I just think for the audience, like they'd love to hear a testimonial,
Yeah.
right? Because then we can spin that off in some other dialogue.
Well, yeah, so is a larger client here in the Valley, and we ended up going in there, and they had 6 different systems that we ended up replacing.
And they knew
Payroll
that.
Experts.
They knew this and came to you with the problem.
They had so we had in the meeting, we had their president, their CFO, and their head of IT.
Okay.
And he goes, I'm going to show you a wireframe of what we're doing and how information's flowing.
Yeah.
It was one of the most convoluted, complicated things I'd ever seen in my life.
Which, if you peel back, you open the hood on a lot of businesses, that's the way it is.
It is. And
right.
and their president, who's a good friend of Casey's now and a good friend of ours, was very much knew that. And he was like, hey, how can you fix it? And in the approach we took, where most people are like, hey, here's a technology, just whatever. We actually opened each piece, opened it up, and actually ended up replacing all 6 of the systems. Then coming to find out, their president approached us later and was like, hey, you guys did such a wonderful job. And we like partners, not vendors. Who else do you have? And that's when I walked Strunk in the door, and we walked a 401k, an FA in the door, and everyone ended up winning the deal because we all came as a partner rather than a vendor.
Okay.
And that was one of the biggest things that this company wants is they're like, we can pay anyone to do anything, but we want someone that's actually going to listen and help. And that's when Casey came in, and team truly came in and changed the game for them. Because instead of just saying, hey, I'll handle your renewal, which I'll let him take over for that, but he's like, I have some other options for you. And by the way, we know it's going to be a little bit of a lift for you to do. I'm going to get with Payroll Experts, and we're actually going to have them build the reports and do everything for you, so it's not a lift on your team at all. And then our teams ended up coming together for like a symbiotic relationship of, hey, the HR, I took the HR director to lunch, and she said, with Joe, who works at Strunk, and she said, hey, you two separately are amazing companies, but coming together was probably one of the greatest decisions we have ever made for our business. And that's kind of how this whole thing started, was from a, hey, let me fix payroll, to, wow, we can fix a lot here. And
so then how did it look from your perspective then after you walked in?
Yeah, so George had largely cleaned up the majority of their pain points from a technology, administrative, and even compliance perspective. I mean, they put the benefits enrollment in their native platform, but the problem this client was having was that their current broker was not interfacing with Payroll Experts.
Got it.
At least in a way that felt good for the client. And so, when we came in...
So it's purely transactional is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, we came in, and I can talk about all the great things we did from a benefits perspective, but, what we did for the client was take them out of the loop of data exchange. And so, 120 days in advance of the anniversary, because of our relationship with Payroll Experts, we were able to gather all of the data we needed related to their population, the census data, the benefits, the rates, go do our job, come back with a competitive package that we ultimately implemented. But once that decision was made, we were then able to go back and work with the tech team at Payroll Experts to build out the enrollment system without the client being involved in spreadsheets, fillable forms, whatever you have to do when you tell 2 different providers how to work together. So I think that was the win in that scenario.
And I think it was close to 200 hours worth of work that our teams did that the client did not need to be involved in, that normally a client would be involved in.
So at the end then, what did they, how the old adage, one throat to choke. Yep. So did they call George or did they call Strunk?
it more depends on, I mean, what I've seen, Casey, but you can take this too, is whoever they have on the phone at the time, if they need something, they'll ask.
Okay.
They'll say, hey, if they have Payroll Experts on the line, they'll say, hey, oh, thanks for answering our question and fixing what you need. But by the way, could you get with Strunk and team and help us with this? And both of our teams are always like, absolutely. And they'll just email the other team.
So from the audience's perspective, there's a lot of people that watch or listen to this that are, business owners, particularly in the construction, architecture, engineering world, and they're listening to this story going, oh yeah, you're describing us. So what advice do you give them when like, where do they start? Yeah. Where do they start if they're concerned and want to make a change?
I mean, from my perspective, it's figuring out where the greatest pain point is.
All of them.
Do you hate your broker?
Casey,
or
all of them.
Do you hate your broker or your payroll provider more?
The answer is yes.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, problematic industries. I mean, from our perspective, though, that they go hand in hand. And once you start to peel the onion back as to this isn't working and this isn't working, well, maybe you need to evaluate both the benefits and the technology that you're using for people to consume them.
So spin the technology for a little bit here. Like, let's take this client, for instance. Now, do they have a fully open portal then for all the employees now that's all streamlined from the technology perspective?
It's all on an app. It's all streamlined. There's communication through the app, so they can now in our system they can text the employees and send stuff to their phone rather than before it was like, hey, here's this piece of paper, please fill this out and get it back to us. Now the HR director pings something in the system, says, hey, go fill this out and get it back to me. And then time and attendance was, hey, fill out this sheet, and then we'll upload it. Now it's just, hey, go clock in or go punch the hours in on your phone, and boom, it's in the system.
Now, if I'm going to take out of this equation, my next question, I assume they've grown as a company.
Yes.
But if I take growth out of it, were they able to save layers of the onion in their HR department because of this? In other words, were they able to grow without adding, 10 more people in the HR department?
Yes, they actually grew tremendously. And headcount,
I'm trying to give it perspective.
Yeah, they grew a decent amount, but they did not grow the HR or the finance team at all.
Because they have you guys.
Because they have the two of us that basically they hired 2 companies now that are doing a lot of heavy lifting for them.
Right.
Yeah, when I think about their population, there should be more than one person in the HR seat with, a couple hundred employees out in the field.
That's different if you're talking a couple hundred, yeah.
Yeah.
So take that same client. Through this collaboration and this partnership, then what kind of things do you guys see on the horizon? How do you expand that collaboration? How do you expand that synergy? In other words, you guys are at the forefront of what you're doing, hence you're on the podcast. What does that look like in the future then with that relationship? Because if you're truly partners, they're going to be looking, hey guys, what's next, or what do we need to transform next? I'm not trying to give away any proprietary secrets here, but I think everyone would like to know, all right, Casey, all right, George, what does that mean moving forward? Is that a fair question?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that we have any great 12 to 24 month rollout of new technologies or synergies, but what I would say is that for those businesses that are locally based and locally owned that want to do business with somebody that is local, we are the solution for that. I mean, there are a number of national benefit agencies out there. There are a number of national payroll providers out there. But at the end of the day, do you want some accountability in the person that's sitting across the table from you? And I think that's what we ultimately bring.
Well, I think what you're saying is kind of have the best of both worlds. Because with technology and the advancement of what we call it the global, Internet of Things, if you will, I can have the same output, if you will, but I can have that better local B2B type relationship with a company or 2 companies or 3 companies or however big your ecosystem is locally. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, which we both approach is we're here to be a partner of yours and have this be a synergistic relationship rather than, hey, be a vendor.
Right.
Like anybody can go in and sell somebody and never talk to that person again. We're more partners, and we go in and want to help and fix and make your business better and help streamline and bring the expertise of, hey, you're doing it this way. Why don't we try doing it this way? And this will help streamline this. And Casey does the same thing. Hey, you're doing this. Why don't we peel back this and look at this instead?
Yeah, I mean, we look to fire clients that treat us like vendors. That's really not how we want to operate. So.
And that's how we have this relationship is we both are chasing the same clients and looking for the same type of partners rather than, hey, if you just need a vendor and you just want somebody to get the job done, yeah, we could be that, but we're probably not it.
Right. If you commoditize me, that's exactly what you're going to get, right?
Yeah. And then you're going to nickel and dime the crap out of us for that whole relationship.
There comes a time when dreams become a reality, when you see your vision materialize into a true work of art. And the only way to get there is to choose a general contractor who shares that same vision and knows how to bring it to life. At Blue Wave, we aren't so big that we've forgotten where we've come from, and we aren't so small that we can't care for your projects regardless of their size. When your vision deserves safety, perfection, timeliness, and expertise in order to become a reality, trust Blue Wave to get it done right the first time.
So with that, talk to me about, for both of you, or specifically you, Casey, talk to me and the audience about what you're looking for in expanded client base and who's the right fit and talk to me about the thing you said off air as far as break down your secret sauce.
Yeah. So, you ask a lot of people in my industry and you say, well, where do you focus? And they might say, well, I love construction or manufacturing. And I was like, well, when was the last time you said, yeah, I love ABC Manufacturing because they've got 200 employees, Bob's an asshole, he never listens to what I say, and he's the perfect client. I mean, that's not it, right? We look at psychographics and not demographics of our clients. Okay. And so, in all honesty, a lot of construction clients are not the best for us because it's a struggle with sometimes how folks run their business, the amount of turnover, the amount of participation on plans. But what we are looking for is what we call the caring trailblazers in the market. These are bold, decisive thought leaders. These are folks that are looking for collaboration, that are willing to be open about the problems that they face, and ultimately want a partner on the other side of the table to bring them into the loop and take them to the next level.
What can you think back in recent months where you've had that level of discernment with vetting someone and it's either gone yes, check the box, or no, check the box?
Yeah.
Without mentioning names, but can you share some stories?
I have one on the top of my head, and it was you and I.
Go ahead.
It was you and I fighting that battle.
Yeah, I've got a presentation now that lasts about 7 minutes, and the title says, "Are we right for each other?" And so, what I lead in these meetings with is really about Strunk, our philosophy, who it is that we want to do business with, and what it is that we believe. And if that feels like a good fit for you, then maybe we should continue to explore this conversation. And if it's not, we find out pretty quickly. We want to work with people that want what's best for their bottom line, but also want what's best for their people. And it's hard to find that in a lot of instances. So
have you been able to distill down like a vetting or a vesting process that gets to the psychographics versus the demographics?
Yeah, I mean, we've spent an entire day with a partner of ours really outlining what that caring trailblazer looks like, all of their characteristics on the board, naming our top 5 favorite clients, describing why they are our favorites and why they allow us to do our best work. And so, I don't know that I have a checklist that's external, but I certainly do on an internal basis.
No, that's good. I jump all over. So you're on a bunch of board of directors and stuff around the valley, correct? What insight has that given you as a business owner, and what are you most proud of in those moments?
Yeah. Since I guess the 2006, 2007 timeframe, for the last 17 years, I've been heavily involved in the philanthropic space. So whether that's men's groups that raise money for children's charities, Phoenix 2030, Executive Council Charities, PCH 50, which is a group that benefits Phoenix Children's Hospital. I just finished up a stint as board chair of Special Olympics of Arizona. My wife just finished as board chair of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Central Arizona.
Do you work for a living or not?
Yeah. So,
when you sleep.
we have built some very valuable relationships through the work that you do in that nonprofit space, some of which have led to business today.
Yeah.
We've met a lot of friends through that. Chris Duncan, who you just had on your podcast a couple of weeks ago, we met through Executive Council Charities. I've got some great partners through that. Really for us, it's how my wife and I met was through a charity campaign, and we just view it as a responsibility for someone who lives a blessed life and works hard every day and tries to give back.
And you have kids?
I do. I have 2 daughters, 5 and 8. Yeah.
Oh, so you're busy. You wait. You haven't even hit the prime time yet.
I know. Everyone says enjoy these years. But.
Yeah. You feel like you're going. Let's see. This is tougher because you're independent and you kind of have this maybe a little bit more unique model. Where do you see the industry going though in the next 5 to 10 years? And how do you either capitalize on that, or I guess on the other end of the spectrum, how do you protect your clients against any kind of norms that are moving that are negatively impacting everyone that's under that umbrella?
Yeah,
I know that was complicated, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean for the last 19 years, I've continued to hear that if our industry doesn't do this, it's going to end by X date.
Yeah, we all hear that.
And there are some concerns out there, and for me, just straight affordability is the number one concern. When we start seeing employee rates in excess of $600, family rates in excess of $3,000, and increases that are in the high single digits every year, you're like, how do we continue to make this work? I mean, I think the biggest movement that we're going to see over the next 5 years is around transparency, and it's already sort of happened. But number one, transparency in how your broker is being compensated. That's been required. And so a lot of that is public knowledge. But what is not seen is the overrides, the deals that are happening with the BUCAs for the amount of business that brokers are placing there. But also on the employer side, I would argue that if you don't have some transparency in your spend, you're in trouble. When you give employees that PPO medical card, it's like giving them a credit card with an unlimited spending limit. After they satisfy their deductible and out of pocket, they can go out and spend any amount they want on medical services in that calendar year. And in a lot of cases, you don't get to see the credit card statement. If you're on any type of fully insured platform, you're not getting detailed claims reporting on your medical plan. And so, number one, who would run a business like that? Who would give their children an unlimited credit card and not ask to see the statement? And so this move towards self-funding, this move towards data, a move towards controlling costs. And so, we can't manage what we can't measure. And the first step is to getting on a health plan where you actually get some data back, because that allows us to do our job.
So speaking of data, where are we going on the fine line of, enough data but not violating every HIPAA rule that's out there? Because I think, on this podcast, I've been a huge advocate for the AI and the digital twinning. I mean, here I am, 52 years old. I would be happy. I haven't done it, but, whether it's the Ring or whatever, I'd love to just model myself just to put it out there, because it'd be like, okay, if someone can interpret that data and help me be a better part of me, and understand you can't change everything, but if I can exploit myself to be a better whatever, fill in the blank, where can we go with that without it, tipping the other side of that fence where it's just violating every HIPAA rule out there? I mean, because your industry actually has, I think you're attempting to get there. Yes, no?
Yeah. I mean, it's a big concern.
Okay. Like what happens well, I guess what I'm saying, like if I go to your symposium or your conference in Vegas next month and that topic comes up, what does your industry talk about in that realm?
Yeah. I mean, protecting the HIPAA data that's involved with a client's account is of the utmost importance to the carrier. I mean, they're largely the ones that are controlling that personal health information. We don't see that, right? We know their name, their date of birth, their social, how much they make, all of those things, because that data is in our system. But what I would say around that fine line of where does it go? I mean, when an employer receives claims data on their employee population, there are no identifiers. It's just at a broad level as to how much I've spent, what are my large claims. Employee names are not there. But there are now AI underwriting tools out there that are changing the game from an insurance perspective. It used to be that they'd run you through a system to see, what type of prescription drugs is JJ taking and model a risk for the group around the health conditions. Now these AI underwriting tools are looking at income. They're looking at the home zip code. They're looking at where you shop, and they're modeling behaviors around who you are as a person.
Behavioral has turned into a whole nother algorithm.
100%. Yeah. And they're now shifting how we think you're going to buy healthcare based on all those different factors outside of just your health. So it's pretty cool.
So with Strunk Insurance and Strunk HR, are there any plans to change, evolve, or like where do you see yourself in another couple of years as far as what you do in the holistic approach to your client base?
Yeah, I mean, the amount of consolidation we see across the business landscape is scary.
Dig a little deeper on that. Tell me what you see.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you looked at just the Arizona-based property and casualty or benefit brokers that have been purchased in the last 5 years, it's going to be a long list that have been bought by large national agencies, private equity, and have sold ownership stakes. I bring this up when you ask me what's our next 5 years look like. Number one, we're not going anywhere. We're not selling.
Not even with a 15 multiple.
Man, they were close a couple years ago too.
I'm just saying.
I don't know how these folks are going to get their money back. We are not going anywhere, but we also see it all the time across our client base. Yeah. Long-standing great clients that have built great businesses and now they've sold and they're getting rolled up into somewhere else. But we're remaining local. We're continuing to try to serve local businesses. And I think more than anything else, we're trying to be a leader in the space of committed advocacy.
Okay.
Employers' expectations just are not being met when they think about their broker relationships. Timelines are murky. Deliverables are murky. How they help your employees is murky. And so, we view things through the lens of consistently acting in the best interest of our clients. And I wish I had some great plan to say that, we've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into XYZ. What we're investing in is being a committed advocate for local business owners.
Yeah. Let me ask a question that I think a lot, maybe it's just me, the way my brain works, which is dysfunctional at best, but I look at you and I look at Strunk and, even George sitting here I don't think the audience would appreciate an honest answer to this is, can you even viably stay independent? Again, let's just talk about the corporate pressure. I mean, I'll take a tangent and talk about just my industry right now. The M&A and the roll-ups are out of control. And I agree. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. You look at some of these offers and these numbers, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but there's deals that have been had and they're on the table even right now. I'm like, that multiple, how the hell are they going to get their money back? Like 100%. You said, because the leopard doesn't change its spots. That acquisition might look good because of the arbitrage that they're looking at, whether it's angel investing, VC, PE, whatever. But let me spin that back to you. Is like, okay, the carriers, take yourself as a broker. The carriers, if they're saying, hey, we only want to work with the national brokerage companies too, then it puts you in that unique spot of they in essence could squeeze you out. Casey, is that a fair statement? In other words, where with that momentum that we're talking about, and maybe momentum's a trend, with the trend of so much M&A going on in all industries, is there a time where you could be facing saying, hey, the carriers basically are saying, I'm small, I'm independent. They don't care about advocacy. They just care about bottom line. I mean, that's a fair question.
Yeah. I mean, we see it in the way that our competitors service their clients at times who have been bought because they are bottom line focused. Like they've had to get lean. They've had to hit certain percentages. there's been talks over the years in various parts of the country where they might tier brokers in an A, B, or C based on the amount of volume of business that you write with them. I think we're fortunate in our business in that it's always been open. There's never been production requirements. Anybody can go to Aetna, Blue Cross, Cigna, Humana, United Healthcare, or others.
True.
And whether you're Casey Strunk or whether you're the president of a billion-dollar benefit firm, you get the same rates for your clients.
Fair enough.
And so I don't have great concerns about that.
Yeah, but again, it was me just trying to take an attempt to try to peel that onion back for the audience sake to go, oh, it's a fair question, and Casey answered it because I think there's a lot of people that feel pressured to have to go large because of all the consolidation.
Well, and I think
I'm not talking just your industry. I'm talking a lot of industries.
Yeah. And, what I would ask your listeners to say is, if you've sat in with one of those large national brokerage firms and they've flipped through a 20-page book talking about all the different resources that they offer, when was the last time you used a lot of those resources? And instead, how good are they at responding to your day-to-day needs? And what we always say is we have all those resources, but if you can't block and tackle, they're useless.
Yeah.
They're useless.
Return a phone call first, right?
Yeah.
Or a text message or an email.
100%.
Talk to me about, or talk to us, the audience, about kind of your leadership style and what you're doing. And George, you can chime in too. I mean, you wouldn't have brought him unless he paid you dearly. No, I'm just kidding. Just what's your philosophy on leadership within Strunk?
Yep. Well, there's no job that's below me because I've done them all. I think I was the cheapest labor that my father ever had, and so
probably still makes him clean his golf clubs too.
100%. Wash his car.
Yeah. One of the first things that I did after buying the agency was immediately started hiring more people to take stuff off my desk because I felt like I was doing everything for my father. But for me, it's all about leading through action. The proof is in the work that you're going to put forward. I give my staff tremendous freedom. I have tremendous trust in them that we view the world through the same lens, that our client is ultimately our moral compass. And so, wildly enough, we have unlimited PTO at our office. Our team is working from home 3 days a week. The answer for me is always yes, if it's related to your family or your personal life or something that you need to take care of. And so, again, for me, it just goes back to giving them a place that they enjoy coming to so that they can be their best to serve our clients. And, we're all on the same team. I don't necessarily view myself as a leader as much as just being in the trenches with them every single day. So.
Did I see, are you an EO right now?
I am, yeah.
Oh, how long have you been in?
I just joined in November.
You mean?
Of 20.
Oh, so just a year now.
2, yep.
To let the audience, I'm always curious, how do you feel about that that journey?
Yeah. I had a handful plus of friends and colleagues beating that drum for probably 5 to 7 years saying, Casey, you need to look into EO. And right before I joined, my CPA who was involved said, I need you to understand that this is going to be about 30% business, and it's going to be a lot about your personal growth, your family, your marriage, and so be prepared. And for me, I was just looking for the next opportunity to get uncomfortable.
Yep. And very well stated.
Yeah, EO was that opportunity, and it's forced me to look in the mirror a couple times already. It really energizes me being around 8 or 9 entrepreneurs that are trying to get up and get it done every single day. Love the perspective of the learning events. Are you in EO or are you just?
I was in Vistage, but I'm around whether it's YPO, EO, Vis, all those types of groups. We try to, at least on Mac and Bleu, I've tried to advocate to just about every leader out there. If you can't afford to be in a formal one, I don't care if it's a Wednesday morning church group full of guys or gals, get outside of your norm. Like you said, get uncomfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable, because you will never change or get better as a leader, an entrepreneur, or whatever, fill in the blank, if you're not willing to take that step. So no, that's why I ask, because the more the audience hears it, the more I want other entrepreneurs and leaders to understand, get outside of your comfort zone, because that's where you're going to break through your own glass ceilings. So if you have anything else to say on that, please share.
No, but it has done just that. And having a 5 and 8 year old. It's like getting used to new levels of torture all the time. Just when you feel like you can't be more exhausted, you are. And so, from a growth perspective in EO, that's what it's like inside the business. So,
George, do you have any insight on that?
No. So our whole company runs off EO. So we do the whole. It's super cool. It's super fun to see.
EOS. You mean EOS?
Yes. Yeah. My leadership team is in EO.
Yeah.
So it's super fun to hear them. They'll come back with stuff to us,
right.
And we'll do things like it's fun because my leadership pushes me now.
Right. The EOS is a whole other thing that we've advocated for. I mean, there's been I would say the majority of the guests on this show have been. Almost everyone's been exposed or implementing some sort of EOS system. Which
I think that's super cool. But even I've gone to some of their events, I've seen Casey there. I think it's just super cool to see entrepreneurs pushing each other. And then I know it's done wonders for my president, and she's come back and let us know, and then she pushes us. So I think it's super cool. Yeah, it's a good way to get uncomfortable and really look at the things, your faults that maybe you don't want to talk about, and then you end up talking about them. I think it's super cool.
There comes a time when dreams become a reality, when you see your vision materialize into a true work of art. And the only way to get there is to choose a general contractor who shares that same vision and knows how to bring it to life. At Bleu, we aren't so big that we've forgotten where we've come from, and we aren't so small that we can't care for your projects regardless of their size. When your vision deserves safety, perfection, timeliness, and expertise in order to become a reality, trust Bleu to get it done right the first time.
What other topics would you guys again, here I am as the host, I should be asking you, but I feel like there may have been some other underlying topics that we wanted to expose today. Casey, do you have anything you'd like to expand on in any of the things that we've talked about or not talked about?
I mean, as it relates to payroll and benefits, today somebody's handling a lot of overlapping services, and is there a clear line between who's responsible, who's being paid for what when it comes to things like 1094s, 1095s, the ACA reporting, COBRA, HSA administration, FSA administration, Section 125 plans, 5500 reporting, and then a lot of eligibility to the carrier. If your Ben admin system is living with a payroll provider, how is that data getting in different places? And so, when you think about a change in your benefit consultant or a change in your payroll provider, you just have to be careful one way or the other, because when you remove one, you might have a few leaks in your boat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. We could break it. It's one of those you just never know with partners, and I agree with that. There's so many blurred lines now that, especially if your partners are not communicating with each other and helping each other, it's doing a detriment to your business.
What about one thing that just came to mind for both of you is with the growth of Phoenix and or Arizona and our relatable companies, I don't care what industry it's at, are you finding that you have better penetration and advocacy with companies that have a distinct HR person, program, division, or like mom and pops that are trying to get to the next level and they have nothing? Is that a fair question? So in other words, are you able to effectuate better and more change through nothing or a transformation? Is that a fair question?
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious because I'm thinking of the audience. There's a bunch that they have established, like you said, they might have 100, 200 people. There's a lot of people in the audience that they might be 20 people, and dad's out doing whatever and mom's running the HR, and they're listening going, oh yeah, that'd be great. I need this. How do I get this? Mm-hmm. So.
Well, I mean, we take great pride in helping employers along that journey. We've got a client in the construction space. They called us when they had 30 or 40 employees. They are now up to 800.
That's just a little bit of growth.
Yeah, they're in 3 or 4 different states. And so when it was mom and pop, yeah, I mean, it really was mom and pop at the table making those decisions. And now they've got a very robust HR department that we report to make those decisions. But I think there's baby steps along the way. And it really comes down to the foundation of administration, compliance, and the relationship with your consultant. I mean, the things that we can do when you're 20 or 30 lives are going to pave the way for you to be a much more functional company when you're at 100 or 200 lives, if you can get those processes right in the first place. And we're not talking about processes that are going to be painful for you. It's, hey, let us take this off your plate. Let us train you to be a great client in a lot of ways and put this thing on autopilot on a day-to-day basis. And we think about sort of just the data going back and forth.
Right, because correct me if I'm wrong in this statement, compliance is not getting any looser or easier. Like George is over here, hell no.
No. I mean, I sit and we have our chief legal officer who gives us updates every Monday. So obviously being Monday.
What is that, a 10-hour meeting?
It's something else. And it's him just hearing about the things. I'm like, how are they making this tighter and tighter? Every week it seems like something new is coming down.
Thanks, government.
Yeah, it is the government. I mean, because I have clients in Colorado and California and New York and all these places that I'm like, how are you even doing business there? How is the owner sleeping at night?
What do you think everyone from California is coming here?
Yeah, it's true.
They just had it.
Yeah, and Colorado is turning into the same way now.
Yeah.
So is Illinois. And we have clients in all those states, and it's just, I don't know how I'm like, I couldn't do it. I would do the same thing. I'd move to Arizona too, just because it's impossible. But they're also, how do you keep up with that? And that comes back to I mean, we're the same way. Yeah, can we help a 20-man group? Yeah, will be a little painful, and you're going to have to, there's going to be a little bit of sticker shock because of getting all these pieces in place. But I mean, once you do that, I mean, it can be off and rolling, and it's almost autopilot to get the thing rolling. But I mean, for my technology, a lot of times we are the better fit for the companies that have the HR team in place, just because we have so many complexities and we can do so much that it's always, I feel like we nuke some of the smaller organizations where I'll be a great fit for you in a couple of years. Yeah. Because I don't want to come in and have this huge price and have all this technology that they're like, whoa, I've done these things for 50 years. We've always done it this way. And I don't want to be that person that comes in, hey, we're going to change everything now.
So, again, for everyone's edification, not to scare anyone, but give me, there's thresholds out there, right? Yep. Isn't the first one is what, 50 employees? Is that the first big threshold?
25.
From a benefits perspective?
Yeah. Like, where are the tiers, just so the audience can, as they're listening, going, oh, I better, either call you or call my broker.
Yeah.
Because, what does it go, 25 then 50?
Yeah, so what I would say is that the carriers have continued to go down market with these level funded and self-funded plans. And for anybody that's under 50 lives, if you are not on a level funded health plan today, you need to be. The rates are going to be 20 to 30% less.
Yep.
The benefits are going to be better. You have a chance to get money back at year end. And those plans are now starting at 10 lives through United Healthcare, 15 lives through Blue Cross Blue Shield, 20 lives with Cigna, 25 lives with Aetna. So, I mean, if you're in that 10 to 25 life space, there are innovative solutions out there outside of just the fully insured ACA rates that you might be accessing.
Got it. And then 50 is when it hits the ACA, right?
When you become an applicable large employer and have to start filing Forms 1094 and 1095, and meeting all the mandates of the Affordable Care Act.
I don't know what you said because I don't care. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
I was being the sarcastic asshole on that one.
You asked me if there was anywhere else I wanted to go, and I'd love to get your take on this. When we talk about sort of the construction industry as a whole, we see a lot of groups out there that might have, call it 100 or 150 employees and 30 on benefits. And so for those smaller folks that are starting off out there, I mean, I would just encourage you to place an importance around benefits, the level at which you're contributing, and also the level at which your employees are participating. Because when you get 25 to 30% participation in a benefit plan, that is a death spiral that's hard to get out of. You've got those folks that need it, that are on it, and everyone else is waving off, and it might feel like it's costing you less because no one's enrolling, but in the long term, it's just going to cost you more.
If it was a question or a statement, I'll answer it by, I still see a lot of 1099 versus W-2 things that are impacting that. So And I'm not here to advocate one or the other. I mean, a lot of people do successful 1099 relationships, but to me, that's where you usually see the disparity.
Yep.
Was that a fair statement?
Mm-hmm. In which a lot of now with compliance again,
yep,
the lines are not so blurred with the 1099 W-2 employees. Now the government's cracking down on 1099s, so they're making a lot of
course, because
switch.
they want their revenue.
Yeah. So I mean,
Payroll
I had
taxes.
a large organization we were talking to. They had 100 1099s, and they're actually making them, because of the hours they worked and how much they worked from, they're making them switch them all to W-2s, and it's crazy, just the
Brutal.
things that are coming down. Yeah. So I just feel bad for business owners out there just because of the way that the government's just putting the squeeze on everything. They want their money.
Yeah.
They're gonna squeeze that lemon as hard as they can, get all the juice out of it. Yeah.
They'll even make wine out of that lemonade. Anything else, gentlemen, that you want to share or discuss? We got a few minutes left.
I think I would love to talk about, because I mean, you said you had different size construction companies. What I'm seeing a lot of is people asking me, what's the difference between, I've done it this way forever, I want to stay in-house, instead of outsourcing, like come to a company like myself. So I want to see what you're seeing out there and what you think people are saying, just because I think if you have over 50 employees, there should be no reason that you're doing payroll in-house.
Well, I think it's a combination of fear, not knowing two individuals like you.
Yep.
You don't know what you don't know, right? And so ask anyone. Yes, there's been tremendous growth, but post 2020, everyone's fighting the human capital issue. So I'm not saying everyone, but the large majority of construction companies, everyone's kind of doing well. But if you really look under the hood, a lot of people are struggling. And they're struggling because it's just like you said, everyone's getting squeezed. The margins are not as tight. You can't just keep passing it on to the consumer, because the consumer is eventually going to go no. And it's, with capital being as high as it is, I mean, there's this whole, circle of I think of Meet the Fockers circle of trust. Little Jack, are you in the circle of trust? But anyway, every time you look at something, it has another impact on that. So when you break it back down to, I think of, if I go to just, small mom and pop trade contractor that might be working for us, you want to help them, but they don't know what they don't know. So as you're trying to, again, effectuate or educate or help them understand it, there's like, hey, I can barely make enough money to pay the mortgage and the fleet vehicles and the rise in diesel, and my supply house is calling every day to increase my rates, and I bid on this 90 days ago, and I don't have the energy to go fight a force majeure claim, and all those. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. So when it gets down to what your industry interacts with us, they're like, benefits, hell, that's the least on my mind right now. Now, that's one adage, but then you flip on the other side going, if they're struggling finding talent, maybe, then you have to say, well, if you don't have these benefits, you're not going to find anybody. Mm-hmm. So you can sit there and spin this almost any way you want. Yeah. So I don't know if I answered your question, but it's all about perspective and a different colored lens for every business owner right now.
Yeah, because I'm just seeing a lot of construction companies, we're doing it in-house. I'm like, it's just not it right now. Just the way the world is going and the compliance and everything. It's like, I know it seems cheaper on paper because you have one poor payroll, Mary, is doing all your payroll, and she's done it for 30 years. But it's like, I mean, the client he walked me into was doing it on this spreadsheet. I mean, it was incredible. I don't know if you've ever seen his spreadsheet. Oh my God. Mad scientist. I don't know how he did that. And it was incredible. But he even said once he came on board with us, he's like, I'm hiring an HR person. I'm hiring a payroll person. I'm going to hire all these people. And he actually scaled very, very quickly. And they actually hired 100 employees because he's like, I don't have to do all this extra work. This is incredible. And so that's something, that we talked to him, and he was like, I've done it this way forever. But once we came in, he was like, why isn't everyone doing this? And it's one of those, I'm like, I never understood why the construction company industry held on so tight when it's like, we can actually fix a lot of issues, both of us combined.
Well, it's like a lot of us, when I say, construction, we usually started in a trade, right? And then you come up and you become a business owner, and then you grow and whatever. So I don't know the percentages, but how many of the owners in any construction, engineering, architecture related company are true business people? Therein lies your underlying question and problem. is that the more you educate and then understand that, and then give them, if you will, the pro forma or the return on investment in tangible terms that they can understand. Like, hey, Bob, look at, if you outsource this to us, we actually save you 15%, and you don't have to get a new office because there's 3 extra seats now for whatever you have going. I mean, that's just one perspective. Now, some of it's control. I mean, there's plenty of control freaks out there too, George. Yeah. It's like, you're not getting into my inner circle,
I get
that kind of stuff. So anyway. Well, gentlemen, thanks for coming on today. We've already burned through an hour, so I don't know where the hell that went, but just thank you for your insight. It's always nice to have you back, George. Casey, thanks for being on.
Thanks, Jay.
For those of you that want to get a hold of Casey or George, George is at Payroll Experts, and of course, Casey's at Strunk Insurance Group and Strunk HR. I know they're both very accessible, so reach out with any of your questions, comments, concerns. And if you want to know Casey's handicap, he'll be happy to play a little side hustle with you on a Saturday.
Available for scrambles, yeah.
Yeah. Are you still scratch?
Yeah.
Slacker. I gotta remember him when we have a scramble. I gotta call him
if you need to win. I played a tournament with him. It was no big deal.
Make him play left-handed or something.
So it was fun having him on the team.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks, JJ.
Thank you, JJ.
You've been listening to the Mac and Blue Show, brought to you by Blue Wave General Contracting. Be sure to subscribe to the Mac and Blue podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Follow JJ Levinsky on LinkedIn and Instagram. Tune in every Monday